Most men never realize they're being tested, not in the traditional, obvious sense, but in the subtle battlefield of desire. It starts innocently, a glance, a flirt, a lingering gaze that makes his chest tighten. But underneath it all lies an unspoken question that every woman, consciously or unconsciously, asks of a man. Can you be swayed? Can your mission be derailed by the softness of skin or the warmth of affection? This test is not malicious, it's instinctual. It is how the feminine measures the worth of masculine presence. Because while a woman may crave a man who desires her, she loses respect the moment she senses that his desire for her outranks his allegiance to his own path. Gurdjieff warned that most human beings are asleep, walking through life in a state of hypnosis, reacting automatically, slaves to impulses they never question. And few things hypnotize a man faster than lust. A man who has not awakened to this reality is easy to control, not with force, but with seduction, not with logic, but with beauty. And once seduced, he becomes predictable. He becomes owned. You can see this in every corner of society. The ambitious young man who begins chasing excellence, only to trade it for comfort once love wraps itself around his ambition. The strong, independent man who becomes a shell of himself once he starts seeking approval instead of purpose. These are not isolated cases. They are the norm. Most men don't even recognize the shift happening inside them. They'll say things like, "She just gets me," or "She completes me," as if their very existence was waiting to be validated by a romantic partner. But what they're really saying is, "I've found something I fear losing more than I fear mediocrity." And once that fear sets in, the downward spiral begins. The man compromises. He softens. He chooses short-term harmony over long-term growth. And without knowing it, he has surrendered the throne of his life to someone else. Not by force, but by desire. Gurdjieff understood the mechanics of this trap with chilling accuracy. He didn't teach men to avoid women. He taught them to stop being mechanical, reactive, unconscious beings ruled by primal instincts. When a man allows lust to lead him, he becomes mechanical. He becomes readable. He becomes prey. And the tragedy is not that women seek to destroy him. It's that they can't help but test him. Because deep down, the feminine does not want a man she can own. She wants a man she cannot move, a force of will that remains centered even in the face of beauty, love, or emotional storms. This doesn't mean becoming cold or distant. It means becoming anchored. And an anchored man is the rarest kind of man, the one who does not flinch in the presence of temptation. But anchoring requires awareness. It requires a man to look into the mirror and ask, "What am I serving?" Because whether he admits it or not, every man is in service to something. For most, it's pleasure. For others, it's validation. For the rare few, it's purpose. The man who serves pleasure is easy to predict. He is reactive, impulsive, easily led. He gets excited by curves and collapses under pressure. The man who serves validation might appear noble, but he is equally lost. He lives not from his soul, but from her smile. One wrong mood swing, and he is thrown off course. Only the man who serves purpose, who burns with an inner mission that no flesh or fantasy can corrupt, escapes ownership. This is what Gurdjieff called conscious labor, choosing suffering over ease, choosing evolution over indulgence, choosing presence over pleasure. And so, the battle is not between man and woman. It is between the man and his own lower nature. Because the woman is not the enemy. She is the mirror. She reflects back to him the level of his mastery. If he wavers, if he fumbles, if he abandons himself to gain her approval, he fails the test. Not because she punished him, but because he proved he could be owned. But the man who resists, not with hatred, but with clarity, who feels the pull of her beauty, but channels that energy into his mission, becomes the one she cannot possess. And ironically, that is the man she desires most. Not because he chases her, but because he doesn't need her to feel whole. This is sacred masculinity. It is not about dominance or control over women. It is about dominance over self. Gurdjieff taught that without inner discipline, without the ability to say no to lower impulses, no man can ever be free. And until a man is free, he will always be owned, either by her, by society, or by his own unchecked desires. But once a man sees the test for what it is, once he recognizes that her allure is not an invitation to fall, but an opportunity to rise, he steps onto the path of inner mastery. He ceases to be a boy chasing pleasure. He becomes a man worthy of legacy. In the alchemy of lust, you'll be taken deep into the ancient and forgotten discipline of sexual transmutation, a principle once reserved for monks, warriors, kings, and creators. Every man feels it. The surge of heat in the body when beauty enters the room, when skin brushes skin, when desire strikes with no warning. It is primal, ancient, and raw. But that fire, left unmanaged, becomes a wildfire that burns down discipline, focus, and purpose. Gurdjieff did not see this energy as evil. He saw it as sacred. He believed that human beings were not born with souls. They had to build them. And this building, this inner evolution, required energy. Not just any energy, but refined, purified, intensified energy. Sexual energy, when consciously harnessed, is one of the most potent fuels a man can possess. But most men waste it. They discharge it in the pursuit of pleasure, squandering the very force that could have made them legendary. The man who transmutes desire is not celibate out of fear. He is disciplined out of devotion. He has discovered the secret. What others spend, he converts. To transmute means to change form. And so, when the urge arises, the temptation to indulge, to fantasize, to release, the transmuted man doesn't suppress it like a monk running from the world. No, he takes it in. He feels the heat. He welcomes the ache. And then, through conscious will, he lifts that energy into higher expressions. Creative work, intense physical training, focused learning, powerful presence. This is the inner alchemy Gurdjieff pointed toward. Not denial, but transformation. The man becomes the furnace. He turns his body and mind into a sacred lab where base instinct is refined into magnetic force. And this force, once cultivated, makes him different. Other men seem scattered. He seems locked in. Other men get lost in women. He draws them in without even trying. He radiates attention that says, I could, but I won't. But this process requires intentional suffering. That's what Gurdjieff called it. The deliberate confrontation of one's lower desires in order to generate inner strength. The world teaches you to avoid discomfort, to seek ease. But ease breeds weakness. A man who cannot suffer his own urges will never become powerful. Every time he chooses comfort over growth, indulgence over self-control, he weakens the signal of his soul. Gurdjieff taught that real will is forged only in the presence of friction. Without it, a man is merely a collection of habits and reactions. But when he observes his own impulses, without judgment and without surrender, he begins to awaken. Slowly, painfully, his lower self dies, and something greater begins to take shape. That greater self, the transmuted man, is not loud. He does not advertise his strength. It's felt, not flaunted. He walks into a room and eyes shift, not because of his looks, but because of his weight. He is heavy with presence, focused without being aggressive, calm without being soft. This is the result of conserving and converting energy. He no longer needs to chase validation because his very being is magnetic. Women sense it, but they can't own it, and that drives them wild. Not because he's withholding in some manipulative game, but because he has something more important than them, his mission. And paradoxically, this makes him more desirable. He is a man, not a boy, a creator, not a consumer, a master, not a servant to sensation. This is sacred masculinity, not because it avoids sex, but because it elevates it. The transmuted man does not run from women. He relates to them from a position of power, not need. He respects the feminine, honors it, but does not bow to it. He is no longer trying to be chosen. He has already chosen himself. This is not arrogance, it is sovereignty, and women can feel it. The moment a man no longer needs to prove himself to her, she sees him differently. He becomes unpredictable, unshakable, unownable. The transmutation of desire is the crucible through which the boy dies and the man is born. The boy reacts. The man observes. The boy chases pleasure. The man channels it. The boy seeks to be held. The man holds himself. And in doing so, he becomes something rare in this world. A man who cannot be manipulated, broken, or claimed. Not because he resists love, but because he has found something higher to love. His becoming. Death of desire, the Stoics' path to cold clarity. This is not a guide. This is not self-help. This is war. Kill the need. Master the mind. There comes a moment when a man no longer asks, "What do I want from life?" but instead, "What does life want from me?" It's in that shift, from consumption to contribution, that the unownable man is born. He no longer lives to please, impress, or seduce. He lives to fulfill something ancient within himself, something sacred. And this shift is not subtle, it is seismic. He begins to speak less, move slower, think deeper. He values his energy like gold. He stops trying to be understood and starts becoming undeniable. He no longer acts for applause. He acts because he must, because the inner calling is louder than the world's temptations. And this man cannot be possessed, because nothing owns him except purpose. To the average woman, this man is both captivating and confusing. She cannot get him to chase. She cannot seduce him with the usual spells, a look, a tone, a withdrawal. He doesn't flinch. He doesn't react. Not because he's indifferent, but because he's disciplined. He feels everything, but he bows to nothing. He sees her beauty, but doesn't drown in it. He notices her charm, but doesn't abandon himself to it. He can walk away at any moment, not as a power play, but as a practice of non-attachment. And this makes him dangerous, not violent, but untouchable. He is not mean. He is moved only by truth. He is guided not by hunger, but by alignment. Gurdjieff believed man could escape the prison of instinct only by intentional effort. Not effort to gain, but to remember his origin and his end. To remember that he is not here to be liked, used, or owned, but to build something that outlives him. And only a man who remembers this can walk freely among temptation without being claimed by it. Women may desire him, but they will not distract him. Comfort may call him, but it will not claim him. He walks the earth like a man who knows what he's here to do. That man is rare, because that man has sacrificed. Not sacrificed joy, but sacrificed distraction. Not sacrificed women, but sacrificed weakness. And so, he rises, quietly, steadily. While others waste energy on validation and drama, he conserves it for mastery. He reads what others ignore. He builds what others postpone. He lives by code, by rhythm, by fire. The sexual energy he once spent on pleasure now fuels a deeper magnetism, one that pulls opportunities, allies, and destiny into his orbit. His presence is currency. His silence is strategy. His every movement whispers, "I am not here to play your game. I'm building my own." Women respect him, even if they don't understand him. They test him, and he smiles, not because he is arrogant, but because he has passed through fire they've never seen. They feel his strength and are drawn in, but they also know they cannot own what they did not build, and he is not built by love. He is built by purpose. The woman who walks beside him must walk with his mission, not in place of it. If she tries to replace it, she will lose him. If she tries to possess him, she will find only distance, because the man who transmutes desire into purpose walks with God. And God does not negotiate. This is the final form of sacred masculinity. Not loud, not thirsty, not rebellious, but clear, still, focused. The kind of man who could have had everything, but chose only what aligned. He is not seduced by volume. He is drawn to value. He is not reactive to lust. He is anchored in legacy. And because of this, because he has died to his lower self and been reborn in fire, she can't own him. She can only respect him. And that is enough. Thus remember, we are interceptor. Becoming interceptor is the code they never wanted you to learn. A psychological war map for men, forbidden teachings fused with modern strategy for influence, dominance, and self-mastery. If you want peace, prepare for war. Welcome to the Interceptor Archive, where the undeceived rise. No ads, no distractions, just pure, uninterrupted power. As a crusader of the archive, you gain infinite access to every video, every truth, every strategy, without censorship, delay, or interruption. New drops daily, delivered to you before the world sees them. Raw, unfiltered, elite. Interceptions.com